Hi. What a shock and what a surprise, I guess, for most of you guys, because last time you saw me, I had long hair, and actually, you'll be seeing me with long hair for quite some time because I have like a huge backlog of videos that I haven't yet, finished editing and stuff like this. So I'll be going back and forth between me being bald and having long hair because I kind of tend to switch a lot. Nah, actually, this was my default haircut for the past 3 years or so, but yeah. Then I wanted to go on a rampage and have a long hair for just a while. So enough about my hair. And this week we have a video request from one of our subscribers, and he asked one of the age-old questions out there, which is not how to learn the notes on the fretboard or anything like that. It was actually more of a guidance question. As you probably see from the title of the video, he is asking himself still, because he's already playing guitar for quite some time, I guess, but he says, and judging by his comment, he says he's still not very sure if he should stay with his acoustic guitar or if he should switch to electric, or whether he should play both, and actually allow me to also include the third option, which is the classical guitar, just to make a complete discussion. So first and foremost, my first mention and very important observation, obviously, is there is no or in between. There should be no acoustic or classical or electrical guitar. There should be like no one set instrument for you, obviously. Just as well as you can play the guitar and the piano or violin or whatever else out there, the bass, the drums, who knows, you can play one type of guitar, two types, three, whatever, as many as you want. You can play slide guitar, you can play jazz guitar, you can play a bouzouki, a banjo, sitar, doesn't matter. So first and foremost, there shouldn't be just one. But second point I want to make is sometimes there should be just one. And by the way, quick mention, I will be touching upon this subject also in one of my future videos, which will be titled something like how I started playing the guitar, or something like this. Its due date should be here pretty soon enough, and I'll walk you through like some of the things that went on in my head when I started on this journey. But back to our second point, just to make it brief, like I never managed to. There are actually occasions when you want to just focus on one type of guitar, and that was actually my case as well. And why I chose to play the electric guitar only, or let's say mainly, because sometimes I just fool around with some acoustic guitar or some classical guitar, like super rarely. But like I said, I'm just fooling around with those. Not that I'm a master of the electric or whatever. You get the point, the idea. I very early on in my upbringing as a guitar player, I made the conscious decision of just sticking to one such types of guitars, which is the electric, obviously, if you've been following my channel for any amount of time. And the reason for this was because, again, I'll touch on these things on on a larger scale in my journey as a guitar player video. But just to make the whole thing short, I started off with classical guitar, and very quickly got introduced to what I had to do as a classical guitarist. Eventually grow my nails, or have some sort of finger picks and thumb picks, or anyway, I had to work on my finger independence no matter what. The guitar itself, although was resembling the acoustic guitar, the neck width, especially the width of the guitar neck, was very different. It was a lot larger. The fretboard was completely flat. No such thing as curved fretboard. No, actually it's infinite radius. And a bunch of other things, like for example the need of a footstool, playing down and stuff like this. Not that I mind playing down or having a footstool, because even on the electric, mainly I play while sitting down, obviously for YouTube at least. And also back in the day, I used to have like an improvised footstool, because one thing that I got from the classical guitar was the position of actually playing here instead of here on your right leg. If you're right-handed guitar player, instead of playing here, I actually play here at this angle, which is typical for classical guitar playing. And the reason why I did this, I'll probably cover it in a different video, but just again in short, was because I felt a huge discrepancy between the times when I was playing live on stage or at rehearsals, and I completely sucked, and I didn't know why, because everything was fine when I was sitting down. And I quickly figured out that the whole mechanics were different when sitting up. So I wanted to create myself a position while sitting down and playing that would resemble as much as possible the position when sitting up and playing. So the classical guitar position is actually the one that suits best, because it's the same thing when you're sitting up or sitting down, right? But I'm digressing as always. And yeah, there were these things that happened. I started with classical, then I went to acoustic, and again, I quickly learned what it meant. When I said learn, I quickly realized what it meant to be an acoustic guitar player. And then I also saw what it meant to be like, the type of guy who plays the electric guitar. All of these things happened for a few weeks. I kind of tested the waters with different types of guitar, and I realized that having started not very early at all, and starting quite late with playing guitar, I kind of had this realization that in order for me to have like the smallest chance of becoming not extremely good or like worldwide best of the best or whatever, but just to become decent enough, like bearable, let's say, I had to focus on one type of playing, especially because of the right hand. The right hand was very different in terms of playing as a classical guitar player than an acoustic guitar player, with a lot of hybrid picking and stuff like this, and focusing mainly on chords and stuff like this, as opposed to electric guitar playing, where you have a lot of things with bends and sweeps and string skipping and all sorts of things. Not that you cannot have them on the acoustic or classic, but it's kind of different schools, different mindsets. So very early on for me, I realized that if I want to have the smallest chance of becoming at least good enough, I needed to stick to one flavor, if you will, and just put all my money into that one basket, which again isn't the brightest idea, like in certain situations, but in my situation I feel like this was the best thing to do. Your mileage may vary, obviously. I'm just giving you some tips here. It's up to you to make the final decision, right? So there shouldn't always be just one. You can play various types of guitars or various instruments. There are cases when there should be just one. So those were the first 2 points. The third point is that when you're making such a decision, you shouldn't choose based on their pros and cons. Well, you should, but not entirely. And what I mean by this is that you don't just put a piece of paper in front of you and you start putting left side acoustic, right side electric, or split it in 3 with classical as well, and you don't just start making this exhaustive list of pros and cons where you're like, yeah, well, the action is lower on the electric and the strings are softer, but the tone is richer on the acoustic, but I like the the feel of plucking the strings with my right hand just like I do on the classical, and I like the footstool, but then again I want to be able to go on a campfire and just jam on my acoustic and strum some chords and play some campfire songs. I mean, these should go into your equation, but they shouldn't be the determining factor when it comes to your final decision. So pros and cons shouldn't be the make or break of your decision. And this is point number 3. Point number 4, again, is something that shouldn't go definitely shouldn't go into your equation. Maybe just pay attention, but don't focus too much on this 4th aspect, which is what people think. So don't go online, and this includes this video for myself. Don't go online and just do a quick Google search on what's best to play, the classical, the acoustic, or the electric guitar. Don't go on forums and ask such noobish questions, because you'll be steered all in the wrong directions by basically like 2 types of people. And I'm not just referring to this aspect as being a negative one online. It's also in real life, like with your friends, your peers, your family, who knows. So when you're asking other people, basically you're having to deal with 2 types of opinions. On one hand, you have the opinion of people who are biased towards what they like. So for example, if I wouldn't know any better and you just ask me in a heartbeat for a very quick answer, I would go like, well, go with the electric, because obviously I'm an electric guitar player and I can give you a shit ton of advantages and make like an exhaustive list of reasons why you should play the electric guitar and why it's the best choice. So these are biased people. The second type of people are the people who are just stupid, dumb enough, uneducated, ignorant, and just talk out of their asses just to give an opinion and have their voices heard, which is a bias of itself, like being stupid and not having any idea of the subject but still wanting to give an opinion, which is the case in most online content nowadays, is a bias in and of itself. So this was point number 4. Don't rely too much on other people's opinions. Listen to people who really can give you an objective look, and hopefully I would want to think that by the end of this video my rant will be such a situation of objective presentations, whatever, because I'm kind of having a brain fog right here. But yeah, point number 4 and point number 3, just listen to them, like the people's opinions and the pros and cons of different types of guitars, but don't put too much value into them. So what should you put value into? Well, this brings us to the next few points, which begin with point number 5. And point number 5 is actually, you should be choosing based on what you want to play. So ultimately, in my opinion, this is like the most important thing that should steer you in whatever direction you end up going into. Basically, like whatever you would choose, if you're not choosing the type of instrument that truly supports the type of music you ultimately want to play, you won't go anywhere. Like a lot of, again, allow me to be kind of rude and say it for what I feel it is. Like a lot of shit teachers and just lazy teachers and people who just want to give you their dogma will tell you, yeah, well, in order to advance to the point where you could play the electric, you first gotta start with the acoustic, because that's where you form all of your basics and shit like that. Well, guess what? No. Most likely what will happen is you'll be enthusiastic because you started playing the guitar, and your mom or your dad or whoever, Santa, brought you your acoustic guitar, because again, people who offer guitars to their friends, families, whatever, to their kids or whatever, colleagues, friends, on birthdays or such occasions. When they do so, they're like, I'll first get them the acoustic guitar. This is what everyone says. If you have the chance of going in a guitar store, maybe that's what the staff there will also tell them. Yeah, get them an acoustic guitar, and if they stick to it and if they're proving to be serious enough, then later on you can buy them an electric guitar. Well, that's all fine and dandy if your initial idea was to start up guitar playing because you want to be this acoustic guitar player. And how would you know that you're aspiring to be an acoustic guitar player? Well, it means that you want to play acoustic driven songs, acoustic guitar based songs. However, if you wanted to go into playing the guitar because your aspiration is to play Iron Maiden tunes or Eric Clapton tunes, maybe Eric Clapton is not the best example because he kind of alternates between the two, but you want to play like rock, blues, metal, if you want to play Metallica, if you want to play Slayer, Megadeth, if you want to play all sorts of things, like the Scorpions, like Bon Jovi, my obsession, right? If you want to play 80s rock, 90s rock, metal, and stuff like this, what will happen is you'll get the guitar, you'll have a couple of lessons, you'll be fiddling around with some tabs online or whatever, some chord books, and a few months down the road you'll just eventually quit because you'll get bored. You won't see any progress, and it's going to frustrate you because overall it's kind of boring. Maybe if you get some lessons from like a typical guitar teacher who goes through the drills with you, like let's go da 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 da, the whole 1 2 3 4 pattern, which drives people crazy and all that shit. It'll just make you quit. It's only a matter of time. Even right now, if you're saying, no, I won't quit because I know myself and I feel like I'll do this and that, chances are you will. Odds are against you if you have the improper instrument to begin with. Again, that's why, rolling back to what I said earlier, that's why I went for the electric guitar. Well, that's, I told you why I stuck to only one type of guitar, which was a different reason, but why I chose the electric to be that one type of guitar is precisely this. When I started playing the guitar, and again, I'll give more details about my journey in a future video. It's late at night. So I'll give the details in a separate video. However, for me, I started because of wanting to play Bon Jovi songs. And when I say Bon Jovi songs, I mean like the 80s type of Bon Jovi. And not only Bon Jovi, later on I discovered that I had like a huge catalog of songs that I didn't pay attention to, and they were actually rock songs, and I wanted to play them. So long story short, again, one of the most important things that should guide you towards playing A or B or C should be the type of music you ultimately see yourself as playing a few years down the road, right? So you want to have longevity as a musician. You will not do this just for a summer and you'll all of a sudden end up mastering the instrument. No such thing. So that was point number 5, which is actually the first point that you should listen to when it comes to the things that you should allow to influence you into your decision. Point number 6 is that you should also choose based on what your heroes are playing. It's tightly related to the previous point, obviously, but especially if you're not very sure like what exactly is it that you like, and you sort of have like this mishmash in your head, probably it's better to look at the catalog of musicians, bands, and whatever that you're constantly listening to and what you're drawn to. And if you're not very aware of what the styles are just yet, because there's like a variety of names and terminology out there that might get you confused, and if it's a bit harder for you to distinguish what you're hearing, whether sometimes it's an electric guitar, maybe it's a clean electric guitar and you might think that it's acoustic or whatever, just look at what your heroes are playing. Like visually look at what they're playing. You've probably seen them in concert, you've probably seen wallpapers, posters, whatever, images on Google of them. So try to guide yourself by this, because chances are 99% of the time that you'll be spending as a beginner guitar player will be trying to emulate what your heroes are already doing or have been doing. So you will most likely be stuck if you will try to do a lot of their techniques and running through their catalogs if you won't have the proper instrument to serve you. So this is point number 2. Point number 3, which is again one point that you should listen to when it comes to your ultimate decision, is that you should be choosing based on what you ultimately see yourself doing. And I know you're probably like, it's again the same point as before. Not exactly. What I mean by this is, do you see yourself as being more of like a loner? Do you see yourself being more like a jam session guy? Do you see yourself being this lead guitar player, like this rock star that this rock star who wants to take over the stage with ripping while ripping solos? Do you see yourself more like carrying the guitar with you in a park or at a campfire? Because all of these things, these things will probably tell you whether you're most likely desiring to be an electric guitar player, for example, if you want to be like this rock star on stage and whatever, If you're more of a chill guy who wants to play just every now and then in a park or in a cafe or in a at a campfire again, you're probably going to go towards an acoustic. If you want to be like this didactic type of player and teach classical compositions to students or whatever, you might go towards your classical guitar. Again, these are not make or break, because you can obviously go at a campfire with a classical guitar, you can obviously be on stage with an acoustic guitar, and so on and so forth. The whole thing is not very predetermined. However, these are clues that are very much indicating what you probably will end up doing, so it's worth taking them into account. Now, a little bit about the classical uniqueness and limitations. So the classical guitars, like I said before, they have very wide necks, they have flat fretboards, nylon strings most of the times. They employ a lot of finger independence for your right hand, for the picking hand. Classical guitar position, most likely footstool, very academic, very classical oriented, hence the name. So the sound will be very specific. The sound will be very unique to a classical guitar composition, and also as an instrument. So by the way, if you're not sure, just research quite a dozen of classical versus acoustic versus electric guitar comparisons, just to get an idea of the sound if you're really a beginner. I know it's not the case of the guy in question who asked the question in the beginning of the video, but probably some of you out there who are watching this video are in this situation where you're not even sure what the sound differences are. So in this case, before anything that I said applies, you should go and check, have your ears check a bit on the sound of each particular guitar. So the classical guitar, I told you what the uniqueness of that type of instrument is. The acoustic limitations and uniqueness, well, they're kind of beginning to be a bit more like the electric in terms of the neck width approaches much more that of the electric guitar. Still, it's a bit thicker, especially around the back. The action is still quite high. Now you're switching towards metal only strings. There's no more this nylon, with very few exceptions. There's no more nylon strings. You're switching to solid metal strings. So now the sound is again different. The cavity of the guitar is now different. The whole resonant spectrum is different. So now again you're slightly going into a different direction. So you might as well get familiar with the sound of it. You no longer kind of need to be in a classical position with a footstool or whatever. You can choose to, just like I do with the electric even. But it's slightly a different ball game. And now with the electric, well, that old Chinese saying that goes along the lines of jack of all trades, master of none. Well, the electric guitar is a jack of all trades, master of one. You can't say that it's a master of none, because obviously it's a master of being the electric guitar, and no other instrument can be more of an electric guitar than the electric guitar. But it's also a jack of all trades in terms of the fact that you have so many options due to the nature of the guitar being electric. You have digital or analog modeling, which can pretty much alter the sound all over the place. You can have very good imitations of classical guitars acoustic guitars, even though for the purists out there it's not 100%, they're obviously, if you're just wanting to have like an acoustic like sound or a classic like sound every now and then, like it's the case for me, I have no problem playing the electric guitar 100% of the time. And when I want to have a little bit of that sound, I can just tweak some of my VSTs or my processors or stuff like this, because for that 1% of the time when I want to fool around with those sounds, it's not worth the hassle of buying different guitars, acoustic guitars or classic guitars. And yeah, I'm very happy with that thing. So it is the jack of all trades, and also in terms of the techniques that are available to you, mind you, on a classical guitar you almost cannot bend. You can, but not near as well as with the electric. Even with the acoustic, you can bend, but it's not the same type of flexibility that you have like the one given by the electric strings. You can do string bends, you can do tapping, you can do all sorts of wild things that are only very they apply in a very limited manner to the classical and the acoustic guitar, whereas on the other hand, you can pretty much do everything that you will do on the classical and on the acoustic. You can do those things on the electric, like no problem. It's not the same vice versa. So these are, for example, some very unique advantages of the electric guitar. Again, back to our previous points, don't choose entirely based on the pros and cons, but have them in mind. And it's like, when you're playing the electric guitar, it's kind of like with the acoustic, and it's kind of, if you want the classical experience. So it's so with the acoustic, but it's very much, it's very far away from the classical experience of having that nylon string, caressing the tips of your fingers and so on and so forth. So I cannot make the final decision for you, and I hope you will not allow anyone else to make the final decision for you, because you're the only one who should be doing this. And in order to cut this video short, because we're obviously I'm a master of making short videos, 30 plus minutes. Yeah, I'll just stop here, and hopefully I've given you some helpful insight as to what such a decision boils down to. And if you have any further inquiries and unclear points, and if you think that this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you feel like it was like a rubbish thing to put out there and I did nothing but to eat away your precious time, be sure to hit that dislike button twice. And otherwise just subscribe and keep an eye for future videos, because I'll be doing a lot of those tutorial like videos in the upcoming period, and I will hopefully restart with shitloads of covers, because I'm just buried in my backlog for now. But yeah, till further ideas and things that are important pop into my head, whatever the fuck sentence that was, I'll be leaving you to it. So goodbye.